Okay, so you should have the printout of your building, and you'll need a sheet of this white square drawing paper, which is on the counter in the art room underneath the bulletin board where the examples for this project are. We're going to be drawing the building out onto this piece of paper. You're not going to draw your entire building. So at my photograph, I've chosen this building, and I'm going to pick which portion of the building that I draw. Now my drawing paper is a square, so the view that I choose of my building will also need to be a square. So this entire photograph is a rectangle. If I drew this whole building, it would almost fit on my drawing paper. It would be very small. I'd have a lot of empty space. And I want to try to fill most of my paper with my building drawing. So I need to look for what view I would like to enlarge. So remember, I'm thinking about a square. So I'm going to, by holding my fingers like this in a double L, and kind of about from the tops of my fingers to the inside here. I've made this kind of like large square viewfinder. I can use this viewfinder now to decide and think about my finished drawing and the composition that I'll create with my graph on my finished piece of paper. Okay, so, and I can kind of cruise along my building here and look for what I feel like is the most interesting view or the most interesting composition to create out on my finished drawing paper. Smaller, right? And I want to focus in on a smaller section of my photograph. That's 100% up to me. I think that maybe I am going to focus on this section over here. I kind of like the top of this roof, so I might go a little underneath and try to get this section of the photo in my drawing. I want to use a grid so that I can be sure that I'm enlarging my drawing as much as possible for my paper. Now I have a 12-inch sheet of paper, and so that means when I go to grid my paper and grid my photo, I need for it to be easily divided by 12. Okay, so if I have a 6-inch grid out here on my photograph, a 6-inch grid on my photograph will give me out on my drawing paper. So if my photo size is 6 inches, I will make a grid of 2 inches on my paper. Okay. If when I come over here, so that gives me a view, and I'll go off the paper a little bit on this side, which is fine. I'll have a little empty space. So that would give me a view that would go down past the windows here quite a ways on my photo. Let's say I want a smaller view. Let's say I really want to enlarge this dome, and I do a 4x4 view of my building. Okay, and this is totally, you have to figure out what works for your photograph and what you want to show. If my building, my photo size is 4 inches, that means I need to make a 3-inch grid out of my drawing paper. Okay. If by chance my photo is larger than that, I have to figure out the math. So for instance, if I have an 8-inch grid on my photo, if I need an 8x8 square on my photograph, how many times does 8 go into 12? We're going to need about, I think it ends up being 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep, 6, 7, 8. So if I have an 8-inch photo, my grid will be 1.5 inches on my paper. So you do have to do a little math and figure out what size grid you need for your photo and what size grid you need for your portrait. Okay, so if this is my photo size, this is the size I need to draw my grid. Okay, and then remember, we are working square. So I need to make sure that I'm thinking in terms of a square. If my building is strongly rectangular, I have to figure out how best to crop and enlarge a square section of my photo. So I am going to do a 4-inch grid on my photo because I really want to enlarge that dome. So out here on my paper, I am going to do a 3-inch grid. Lines at the top for the measurement, lines at the bottom for the measurement. Connect them. Now we're going to be to a black sheet of drawing paper. So any mistakes that I make out here don't have to be transferred. Any grid lines don't have to be transferred. I don't want to call it a rough draft because you want the finished contour line drawing to look exactly like you want your contour line drawing to look for your project. I don't have to worry about having to erase things. The reason we don't just draw directly with white colored pencil on the black paper is that white colored pencil doesn't erase well off the black paper. So I had decided on a 4-inch grid, so now I'm going to come over here on my drawing paper to just sort of block out the view that I want. I don't want my building to just be bonk in the middle. Kind of want to move it to the side so I've got some better kind of compositional elements going on. So you can see I'm just sort of sliding my ruler and identifying where that 4-inch cutoff is going to be. You can use masking tape. One thing a lot of times people like to do, like I'm not going to need the rest of this photograph, so I can fold this now. I can just get rid of it. I know that I'm just drawing from here over. Makes it a little less visual information for me. And now here on my photo, I'm going to make a 1-inch grid because this will transfer then. So I have 1 inch by 1 inch grid lines. I'm just going to draw this right over the top of my photograph so that I can keep my drawing reasonably accurate. You do have to simplify building, right? But this gives me the opportunity to make sure that I'm going to enlarge my drawing as big as my paper. I want to make sure I have room for that steeple. So I'm kind of watching where that is. That will be the top of my drawing there. This will So now I have a very much like the grid system we used when we drew our self-portrait photo, right? And I can label it the same way. I can label 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to relabel here A, B, a lot of columns, right? So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4. This is also A, B, C, D. Again, don't have to worry about those. I won't have to transfer them later. So just like in my self-portrait drawing, I am going to, and if you still have your viewfinder from the self-portrait, that's fantastic. I'm the only one who's going to use this, so I can kind of make some marks on here. And I'm in 2. Wait. I have to move down one. Yep. So this is also why we plan, right? If I were to draw that way, I need number. So I do need column A, B, C, and D down here. but I'm going to draw in them simultaneously. So I need 2A out here. So 2A here, and I have, so we want just really detailed contour line drawing of the building that you're going to be drawing. So what that means is I need to pay attention to all actual details. If there are 2 lines on my drawing, on the photo, there should be 2 lines on my drawing. Tricky things like this, like I need it to be in the middle, so I'm going to draw this middle piece here before angling up. This comes most of the way to the top of my paper. There's a circle at this little sphere. And now I should be able to make this curve. So this is what you're going to work on today in class. You are going to be working on drawing this contour line drawing of your building. Nothing shaded in, everything just drawn, outline, empty outline fashion. And we will transfer these onto our drawing paper so that we can color that stuff in next week or starting Friday. So you can see I'm working just very carefully from the photograph, making sure to draw just the elements that I see in each square. So I can move on now. I've gone down to this next section. The building has this little lump in it. It gets a little wider here. And then we have this dome starts just over the half. So I have this. It's going to curve this way down. So I'm going to just continue, just like when we worked on our self-portrait drawing, I'm going to just continue to draw one at a time, using my grid to guide my work, making sure if something has 2 sides in my photograph, I'm drawing 2 sides on my drawing so that my drawing will be able to, that I will do later. Okay, this is what you will need to work on today. You will most likely not finish today. I did a resting building, which usually means that it has kind of some complicated, millwork and different interesting elements. So you will need to work on this today, and we will continue to work on it on Friday before we begin we transfer these images down to our black and drawing paper.